Good morning, Project Return, and anyone else who may be watching. My name is Elizabeth Keel, and I'm the Program Manager at Project Return. And what we do is we provide conversations, opportunities for engagement, and some educational opportunities, which includes art and poetry and many other subjects. And so today we're going to continue our psychology and wellness course, and we're going to continue our discussion about problems. So remember, last week we discussed the 5 aspects of problems. And those 5 aspects are environment, behavior, mood, physical reactions, and then also our thoughts. And so we discussed a little bit about what those were, and we're going to review that some. But we're going to discuss specifically our thoughts and how our thoughts are influenced by the other 4 aspects of problems. 4 aspects to understand about problems, I should say. And so the first one we got to have to discuss is thoughts. So what are thoughts? Thoughts are words or images that can be rapid, they can be slow, they can be automatic. Sometimes they can be positive, sometimes they can be negative, and they differ depending on our situation, right? And our circumstance. And so let's give an example. Let's say our circumstance is we just lost a job. So for example, in 2018, my husband lost his job a week after my mother passed away. And that was really, really devastating. But at the time, we were so consumed with our grief that it didn't seem like that big of a problem. In fact, it ended up being an opportunity for my husband to move forward in his career. And so at the time, our response, our reaction to it wasn't all that bad. We felt, okay, this is an opportunity to move on. For another person, that job loss could be devastating. And so we have to understand that our circumstances and the situations that we face are all different and can differ. Our thoughts on them can differ based on our circumstances. So in the case of my husband, our circumstances were improved by the job loss. We had the opportunity to move forward after that. And so our thoughts and our attitudes can change the way our situations are viewed. And so the next thing to talk about is how our thoughts are influenced by our mood. And remember, our mood is one word to describe our overall feeling at that moment. So it can be sad, mad, nervous, frustrated, grateful, joyful. It can be all of those different things. Those are different things of moods. One word, describe it, one word. And so they're different from feelings, and we discussed that some last video as well. For example, let's talk about another scenario. Let's say you're like me and you get nervous in public speaking and you still have to power through it, so you're invited to a party. Let's say you meet John. John is super nice, you guys really click, you guys have a lot to talk about, and afterwards, what's your mood? Ask yourself what your mood would be. And let's say in scenario 2, you meet John, and you really don't click. In fact, he doesn't laugh at your jokes, and you're a really funny person like I am. He doesn't laugh at your jokes, so you feel kind of lame. And afterwards, your mood may be kind of sad or anxious, like, am I really going to fit into this crowd? So your mood can be influenced by different scenarios. So again, if it went well, you might have a positive reaction. If it went bad, then your thought may be that your mood is going to be negative. And if they seem bored, they may feel anxious. Or if they're rude to you, you might be affronted and be like, well, I don't really want to be at this place. There's jerks here. So your mood and our thoughts are influenced by our mood. So you may think, well, people don't really like me at this party, or I may not fit in. So that's an example of how our thoughts are influenced by our mood. And so the next one to talk about is behavior, how our thoughts are influenced by our behavior. So first thing I want to talk about is the power of belief in yourself and what you can do. So for example, athletes that go and they train really hard to beat a record. And then one athlete beats the record, and suddenly all of the athletes know that it can be beaten, and so they all beat the record too, and new records are set. So the power of belief is that if you believe in yourself, you are more likely to be able to be successful in the things that you try at. And so that's some positive psychology for you. And so the power of belief. And then when we have automatic thoughts, for instance, if we're hungry, our body says, we're hungry and I really need chocolate cake right now to satiate myself. Remember, the body is a temple. Respect it. No chocolate cake. You may have a thought that you're hungry, and then your behavior is every time I'm hungry, I'm going to go and eat. But what if you have a snacking problem, or if you're a stress eater and you want to eat all the time? It could be a bad habit for you if when you're stressed you want to go and eat to cope. So that could be a negative behavior, a negative habit. There's also positive habits too. And remember, habits are thoughts that lead to repeated behavior. So for example, I never turn off the lights. A lot of wives don't do that apparently, according to my husband anyway. A lot of us don't turn off the lights. But my husband gave me the thought that if I turn off the lights, my power bill would go down. So I gave this experiment a shot. I didn't turn off all the lights in the 1 month, and then the next month I turned the lights off. And what did I find? That the power bill went down. And so it became an instinct for me to turn off the lights. So it became a positive habit. A behavior that came from a thought. If I turn the lights off, then I'll save on my electric bill and it'll be better for the environment. So that's a habit, a behavior that we form based on our thoughts. And so let's get some other things. So for example, some of our behaviors may be avoidance. I don't know about you guys, but right now it's really hard because of the coronavirus not to avoid other people. We have to. And so we have an opportunity to reach out by phone, by text message, by Facebook, by journaling, by writing letters, by doing all kinds of different things. We have a choice to do that, an opportunity to do that. And so we can avoid people or we can reach out to them. And in the case of me, you can procrastinate on some of your duties like your schoolwork. Don't do it. Or you can study and make sure that you get a really good grade on the test. And our thoughts, if we think, if I study really hard, I'll do well on the test. That inspirational thought that you tell yourself, that inspirational message you give yourself, that thought can change your behavior too. And I bet you, if you practice that principle, you'll do better on your test. And so, behaviors. Now let's talk about thoughts and the influence of our physical reactions and our physical problems. So, first off, we know that pain drives thoughts. If we're in pain, it can be hard to think about anything else but the pain. Or if we have a disability, we may have a hard time thinking only about what we can't do. And so if we believe, for instance, that something will help us, then it's more likely to help us. And we talk about that a lot with the placebo effect, right? If somebody is given an anxiety medicine and a placebo, and they take the drugs in different times, we find that the anxiety decreases with the placebo effect because people believe that they're getting the anti-anxiety medicine. And so if you believe in things like our medicine that will help us, then it will help us even more. And it will produce that kind of placebo effect for us. And then other things, pain, when we're feeling pain and our thoughts get impaired, then we think about how we can change our thoughts when we're dealing with our pain. So I always think about that gratitude attitude, like I say. But we can't gratitude our way out of pain. And so how do we change our thoughts surrounding our pain? And then other things, right? Like watching a scary movie. Oh my God. Zombie movies. Zombie movies scare me like nobody's business. World War Z, can't even. So example, we see a zombie movie, a scary movie. And what's the physical reaction that we have to that? We have maybe some anxiety, some fear. We're jumping into it. We're getting scared. It's great. Or if you're watching a video about golden retriever puppies, you might feel really content and happy and serene. And another thought, if we have a fear about things like bees, you know, Miss Elizabeth has a very big fear of bees and any stinging thing. And so my thought is if I get stung by a bee or if I hear a bee, I think that bee's going to sting me. The bee's going to sting me. My anxiety goes up really, really high and I have a physical reaction to the problem of the bee. So how do I change my thinking? How do I change my thinking to influence my physical reaction? How do I mediate my anxiety about the bee by changing my thoughts? And part of that is telling myself that the bee is minding his own business. He's minding his own business and he doesn't want nothing to do with me. So be chill. Be chill. And so we have an opportunity to change our thoughts and then change our physical reactions by proxy. And so the last one to talk about is our environment. How thoughts are influenced by our environment. And so environment, remember, it's not just necessarily where we live, but it's also the life situations, past and present situations that you may have encountered in your life. For instance, again, thinking about the coronavirus is our current environment that we're all dealing with. And it can be your circumstances or situations that you're in. So that's environment. So how our thoughts are influenced by our environment. So our beliefs are influenced first. Remember, our environments can be positive and negative. So a positive environment for me is the online classroom. It's positive to be in my studio with our Project Return mural right behind me and me to be able to be in the sunlight, essentially, with my windows. It's enjoyable for me to be able to reach out to you through the online classroom. That's my situation. And so my thoughts are, do your best. Make sure that when you're talking to the camera, it's like you're talking to Project Return. That it's like being with the family right here in my studio, again, in the beautiful natural daylight. So now that we've talked about how our thoughts are influenced by the 4 other aspects of understanding our problems, now we come to the part of our video where we understand how changing our thoughts can influence all those 4 aspects. So, when we're thinking about our mood, we want to change our thoughts. We want to change our thoughts when we're thinking about the problems that we're facing. So if we're facing the problem with the coronavirus and we're told to isolate, we may isolate and then isolate further by not reaching out to our friends, like I mentioned. And so our mood may be kind of sad or dejected or lonely. And so we have an opportunity at that point to change our behavior and reach out to a friend. And if we reach out to a friend, we may find that our anxiety or our stress level may reduce. We may be able to change our mood from being sad and lonely to feeling content or to be feeling happy or to have a good laugh. And if we change our environment, right, if we clean our house, if we make sure that we're doing our dishes, then we can ensure that our thoughts are going to be in a clean environment too, and not be diminished or restricted by a negative space. So, what I'd like for you guys to do is to review the content from last week and really, really understand that your thoughts play a big factor in the way we think, feel, and behave. And, well, yeah, think, feel, and behave. But the way we feel and the way we behave and the way our mood is and our physical reactions, all of those things play a role. So, if you take anything from this video, Project Return, first, know that I love you and I miss you a lot. Second, know that your thoughts are critical. And thinking positive, even though I love thinking positive, isn't necessarily just enough. You have to put in the hard work too. You may think to yourself, I'm going to do well on this test. But if you don't study, then you may not do well. But you may also be able to mediate any anxiety, test anxiety if you study. So prepare yourself. Make sure you have the appropriate behaviors to solve your problems, to reach out to those people, and to do all of the things that will lead you to a happy, healthy life. So Project Return, from Elizabeth Keel, your program manager here in her studio in South Florida. Just kidding. Tampa. Have a great day. Thank you guys. See you soon.